stood up the first time, and I'm waiting for somebody to start the pledge. All of a sudden, told me, "You're supposed to do it, dummy."
Oh, hi, Liz. How you doing?
I remember the old days when we didn't start with that, so.
A lot of things happen in the old days that we don't do.
I make a motion to open the meeting.
Meeting minute, yeah, any second? Second. Made and seconded. All in favor? 3 in favor. 2 missing. Okay, no old business. So we'll go right to new business. Board of Appeals. Somebody here from the Board of Appeals? Draft ordinance being put forward to recharter the Board of Appeals. Do we know anything about that?
No, just what Denny said.
No, I know, but what are we supposed to do about it? Just information and things.
I was reading this thing here, and I'm just trying to think that if we wanted to, I guess we could make a motion to allow them, to encourage them to go forward in their reevaluation of the appeals board, to sort of what did they say they were going to do here? They're going to recharter the board to provide clearer guidance and authority.
Yeah, the ordinance is unclear, at least it's not as clear as it should be.
Yeah, they still have to work on that,
Yeah.
apparently. I would,
Yes.
I guess I would make a motion that we encourage them to write up a potential ordinance and allow it to go to a public hearing.
We need to see it, it's run it by us.
Yeah. Run it by
Well,
us.
and that's my thing, I feel like this is preemptive,
Yeah,
because we've not yet seen the
Yeah.
ordinance. So we're asking them to redraft an ordinance for review, and then they're asking for us to already skip that step and go right to, can you approve for this to go to the January 2019 public hearing? I
No.
don't have a problem with that, but is it gonna be, will it be done by then?
Well, I think Ernie's motion is most appropriate. Give them approval, go ahead, draft something and get it back to us.
And how many days, Cheryl, does it have to be done prior to public hearing? Because isn't it 45
I think it's
days
45,
before
yeah.
public hearing, but then there has to be time prior to that for a review, and then it,
Well, it can go to the March meeting too, doesn't it? In fact, it'd probably be better to go. Well, we are talking about the March meeting, aren't we? Well, they'll have to have a hearing, they'll have a separate hearing. Or we held the hearing actually, so we can do that.
well, and I don't have a problem with this tying it in to the same public hearing, as long as the time frame is appropriate. I mean, and here we are, there's also this part of me that says, why are we getting this in the middle of December? And we want something to present for January. Somebody had to have noticed before now. This was lost. So.
well, I guess I would say that they should move ahead, and if they're ready for a public hearing and the time fits, then that's fine. We'd have to, of course, look over their what they come up with before any public hearing.
So
But,
does that give us enough time, Lenny? Because our next meeting is December 18th.
So if they don't have it ready, and if we don't like the way it's drawn up, then they wouldn't be ready for
Bounce it
the
back.
public hearing in January, the all-inclusive public hearing.
Well, we may be able to just do a separate hearing, because nobody
Yes, if
Nobody shows up for the
potentially we could schedule a different public hearing, but worst case scenario, it doesn't
Doesn't go
make
anywhere.
it doesn't make it to the town meeting, and it happens at some later date. But the important thing is they get the ball rolling on this, and I don't know if they've been working on it or not. My guess is they probably haven't, because I think the appeals board is a little struggling a little bit, because although is Jay back on the board
I think he is.
temporarily as the
Frankly,
chair, so
I'd expected to see him here.
it would
He's
be a
in
good
the
time
board.
to do
Are you on
this.
the board? You're on the board.
It would be a good time to
Have you
do
been
this
working on
while.
the ordinance, working on the ordinance?
Yeah, it was submitted to Denny this past week.
Oh, it was,
We
okay.
voted on it.
Oh, okay, the
As a-
rechartering kind of thing?
It's,
Well, it's
Sorry.
a new
This-
ordinance.
The sort of rechartering of
yes, Yes, it's just a recharter.
All right, so that's already been sort of formulated?
So why isn't it in our book?
Well, because, you know, Denny's not here, it'll be at our next meeting, but I think
Yeah,
he's
the
just
basic-
more or
basic
less
change.
telling us that it's going ahead, and, so I guess, you know, this is pretty cursory, just saying that, yes, it would be good for.
Basic change was going from 5-member board to a 7-member board, so that we have 2 alternates.
Sure, sure,
Other than that, it's, there's no substantive change,
sure,
That's
the
the
way
only,
things have been operating.
okay. All right, well, I guess we'll look at that next time
we can just
meet.
table, it seems to me there's nothing gonna be lost if we table it till. the
Yep,
next
that's
meeting.
fine. So
You've
let's,
already done your work, yeah. You wanna do that?
I'll make
Yeah.
that motion. Oh, do we need to withdraw your motion first?
I'll withdraw my motion and
And I will make a motion that.
Who
we
seconded
table.
your motion?
and
I
I'll,
seconded.
More
I think
discussion.
so,
Oh, look who's here.
and I'll second.
I apologize for
For
being late.
tonight's meeting.
That's fine.
All right, and we'll table it, and all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, table till the next meeting. Would you please make sure we have a copy of the draft before, so we can act on that, decide whether to go forward with it. Okay, tell Denny. Hi,
Hi,
now look at the north.
it's cold out there.
All right, next item is acceptance of petition for funding the library, literary volunteers. Literacy volunteers, I should go take that course. Any questions, any discussion on that?
Cheryl says there's enough, so I make a motion that we accept the petition for the 2019 town meeting warrant.
Motion's been made, is there a second?
Second.
Second. Any other discussion? Yes, sir.
Will that be by secret ballot or on the floor of the town meeting?
It's usually in on the ballot,
Usually on the
whatever the
ballot.
usual, yeah, pretty sure it's the Australian
The
ballot.
social service ones go on the secret ballot. Unless you want a petition to do it differently.
In which case, we're not gonna listen to it. All right, any other comments, questions, whatever? All right, call the vote, all those in favor, accepting it?
Now, we're voting on the fireworks too, Cheryl?
I
Yeah.
see fireworks in here.
Did there were enough signatures?
I guess so.
Everything came out fine.
Okay,
That's what this is, right?
Yep,
And there are a sufficient number of signatures, they're all been
it
approved.
was over 200.
Now, where did that come from? Because I don't have that in mind.
Yeah,
Copy on your desk,
it was written in.
That's another change we made while you were
Okay.
away. All right, any discussion on this matter? Make a motion, yeah, I'll make a motion to accept it.
I'll second that.
Second,
Made and seconded. Any other discussion? Comments? Yeah, all those in favor? Another noisy fourth.
So you say there was over 200 signatures?
Clerk?
Yes.
Okay. All right. This is good. Why can't we do this all the time?
just keep.
Scheduling for Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve that fall on Monday this year. This is only this year we're talking about. Anybody have any thoughts on this?
Well, I guess I agree with Ricky's suggestion that if we wanted to, they could close at noon on those days. Anybody
No, that sounded
have any
fine
thoughts
to
on that?
me.
In my feeling, since Ricky can't vote, he's not here.
I understand that, but I'm
Yes.
just suggesting his thoughts.
My feeling is close on Christmas Eve and be open on New Year's Eve. They're gonna be closed half a day on New Year's Eve, not actually closed, they'll be here working because they have to close out the books. But the office will be open for half a day in the morning on New Year's Eve. And that's what I would propose, but vote, how do you wanna vote on it? How about you, Molly, have a feeling on it?
Well, do we have anything in our pay that's like holiday pay or anything like that, or is it just straight time?
Well, neither one of them are actually, well, are they legal? They're not legal holidays. So if they work, if they get the time off, they get a present. If they don't, and they have to work, they're paid the regular. Because they're not on the holiday list.
Yeah, I do think that we should be open till at least noon on New Year's Eve, because that closing out the books gets pretty scrambling.
Yeah, well, that would be my proposal anyway. Open to the public till noon, close and work behind the new screens after that.
I like your thinking. I'm thinking that, now that I'm thinking about it, why don't, because I had forgotten about the closing of the books thing.
Yeah,
Why don't we, I'm formulating a motion in my head here that we close at noon on Christmas Eve,
Mhm.
and we remain open on New Year's Eve.
yes, but will we close at noon to the public on New Year's Eve? They can't do this. They can't-
To the public close,
at noon on New Year's,
but not to.
So they can
so they
work.
can do their work. They can't work
Okay.
if the people coming in.
Now, what, on Christmas Eve, does that mean that, does the office close at noon, or?
It depends how you vote. What I'm proposing is it doesn't, the office will be closed all day.
Yes,
What you just described would be the office would close at noon
on Christmas Eve,
on Christmas Eve.
yes.
And the same on, well, in effect, the same on New Year's Eve. It'll be open to the public till noon and closed to the public afternoon. Okay, that's option 2. Option 1 is closed all day Christmas Eve, open to the public half a day on New Year's Eve. Option 1
Yeah.
is half a day, closed half a day on Christmas Eve, and the same for Friday
But the thing is, if you close to the public at noon,
for New Year's
and
Eve.
everybody is still here until the normal close of business,
Yes,
and somebody shows up at 2 o'clock to register their car, then that's gonna seem
have-
odd to them.
we'll have to advertise it. If we ever get the sign back, at the very least, it'll be on the sign.
Yeah, we'll be getting the sign
Should
back.
be on the website, that does work. And post it.
Has that
Here,
ever,
there, and everywhere.
does anybody know, has that ever been done, that we've closed to the public
Yeah, so it's the way it always is, basically.
at noon, and then we've
Yeah.
remained open to do?
We did last year.
Yeah,
We did.
we've always done something like
We
that.
did that last year?
Yeah.
The same thing?
Yeah, because
We
I was
were-
here doing the books in the afternoon.
Okay, and did the whole office close at noon on Christmas Eve?
I don't know, Christmas
No.
Eve.
On New Year's Eve, you're talking.
That's been a different, every year we vote on.
Yeah.
Christmas Eve.
How long
Okay.
does it take to close the books out though? If we're figuring noon to 4:30, is that enough to close the books out, or do you need?
That gives us the time to do our reports and stuff, and then we'll compile anything else that has to be done after that, but
That half a
we gotta
day,
get the
that half
reports done when there's no business.
Right.
that half a day gives you enough time. Yeah.
Okay,
All right, I'd go along with your version if you want.
why don't you make the motion?
All right, I'll make the motion that we, on Christmas Eve, will be closed in the afternoon from noon to the end. And on New Year's Eve, open to the public until noon. And the office will be open for the staff to work on the books from noon to the end,
Regular business.
4:30.
Oh,
What about the center and all the other employees? Well, let's take care of that
Well,
one.
let's just do the town.
Let's do that one
Yeah.
for the town office. Is that clear what the motion is? I didn't get a second anyway.
So,
I'll second the
so
motion.
Christmas Eve, open until noon, and then closed, everybody goes
Yeah.
home.
Everybody's on.
New Year's Eve, open to the public, 8 to noon, and from noon to 4:30, staff open
Yes,
Right.
to close out the
I
books.
I think I know what to do with the rest of them, but go ahead, let's vote on this.
okay.
And okay with everybody, any other discussion?
I will second that
Okay.
motion.
Okay. 2 seconds. You want a second too?
Oh, I'm there you go.
All those in favor?
I'll be the third second.
Yeah, what I said, for the rest of the staff, rest of the employees, I think we should close down town government at noon. And then on New Year's Eve, since all the office staff will be working the full day, everybody else will work the full day.
Yeah, yeah.
On New Year's Eve.
I agree.
That make sense?
Yes.
So everyone in town, Christmas Eve is done at noon,
Everyone in town, Christmas Eve, is noon,
Sure.
including the library.
and New Year's Eve working until 4:30.
And they're not open on Monday anyway, right? Is the library open? It is?
Yes, it is.
Sure are.
Not this Monday, not that Monday. All right.
Okay, Sounds good.
Do you want to vote on the second part for the rest of them, or
uh,
is it necessary? Let's vote on it, just make it clear.
yeah, sure, we can, yeah.
Right, I'll move that Christmas Eve, the town closes down at noon. All the employees get off. And on New Year's Eve, everything's open. In other words, everybody works a full day on New Year's Eve.
We wanna set a closing time though, like what time is the library normally open on Monday?
I forget.
Just regular hours, I would say.
Regular hours.
I mean, I feel like if it's New Year's Eve, we don't wanna be like, hey, you folks at the library stay till 7, hopefully you don't have to pay, but everybody else is gonna be out at 4:30.
No,
So,
Them's the breaks.
should we say the whole town?
We can make everybody
Everything
work.
else closes at 4:30?
Well, it does any, oh, they mean the library.
Right.
Friday's library open on Friday. Library's not open on Friday.
No, this is Monday.
Oh, Monday, that's right. It's always on Friday.
okay,
Well, it's getting too complicated. I think I'm not gonna change my motion.
Thank you.
Well, they would work their regular hours.
yeah, regular hours.
Because, you know, if everybody else in town is working, the library, if they're supposed to be closed at 4 o'clock, they'd be closed at 4 o'clock.
That's right,
Exactly.
regular hours, the
Regular
rest of
hours,
the town,
yeah.
On Christmas Eve.
on New Year's Eve.
New Year's
New
Eve.
Year's Eve. On New Year's Eve, yeah, they go the full day on New Year's Eve because everybody else is working.
Whatever their hours
But
are.
now the
Christmas
Monday,
Eve, we
you're
already
saying
determined.
They'll be closed at noon.
All of the town will
Library.
close at noon,
On Christmas Eve,
Christmas Eve,
okay?
and all of the town will remain open on New Year's Eve, except for the town office,
You got that, Claire?
closing to public.
You got it figured out? Okay. All those in favor?
Did I have a second?
Sure.
Yes,
second.
there were
Sure.
several
Yeah,
seconds.
Several seconds.
There were several seconds.
Okay, thank you. That was harder than I thought. Okay, we have a.
It's talking about 2 days out of the year.
We have to appoint, we've been asked to appoint Melanie Alexander as the tax collector, removing the appointment of Nicholas Poole due to his workload adjustments. There's a little thing on that, if you need to, we need to discuss that.
No, I make a motion.
I'll make the motion that we go ahead with that.
I'd like discussion.
Okay, we'll have discussion. I'll second it, so the motion's on the floor, but go ahead, Melanie.
I'd like to know how many titles Melanie Alexander currently holds for the town, and if there's a change in pay, if the tax collector is now given to another person in town. Does it come out of Nicholas and go to her? Or exactly how's that done? There's gonna be more entitled here, because if anybody recalls, a handful of years ago, there was
Yep.
some nitpicking about titles.
Yep.
So I'm not comfortable signing off on this unless we have full disclosure on what exactly that entails.
Do you have any information?
I did not.
Did you leave us any written material?
Just
Only
this,
what was in the package.
just in the package here.
I can't answer your questions, I don't know.
I can't either. I make the motion, we table it until
Yep,
we
till we
find
have the
out
answers.
the answers to.
Made the table, second.
Second.
Seconded by Melanie, all those in favor? Tabled. Let Denny know our problem was.
Table, sur la table.
This is good. Mary Lou Butterfield has applied on behalf of the food pantry to maintain, they have a food box up there now.
Is this at the
This is a renewal,
transfer
isn't it?
station?
Yeah, what's that?
Is this at the transfer station?
Yes. It's a renewal,
Tis a renewal.
huh?
It's a renewal.
It's a renewal, yeah.
Do we have any reason to reject it?
No, I haven't heard any complaints about them.
Do we have anyone else who wants that?
We have no other
Because
applications.
we only allow so many, that's what I was asking.
We allow 3,
Anyone
we've got
else?
2 up there.
Perfect.
So if somebody else wants to come in, they can still do it.
Okay. I'm in favor of approving the application.
The motion,
That's my motion.
second,
Right here.
second by Kathy. All those in favor? 4, 1 absent. Thank you. Okay, we got
Now we're
Wednesday.
at the warrant, right?
Warren, my gosh. Thank you,
Keep
folks.
chugging along.
This
yeah.
is good.
Good.
These will go for the record. Okay, warrant number, who's got the,
Thank you. The 2 page 7s here, they are the same.
why don't you read it while I go inside?
That one was just the final page.
Just the
So-
final
Ooh.
page.
I have to-
All right, warrant
Oh,
number
okay.
147, the warrant total amount is $28,305.38.
Ask questions slowly.
Slowly.
Is there a second?
Second. Does anybody have any
Is
questions?
there any discussion?
Looked like the majority of it is the DC Stevens Fund, where he's just kicking in the end of the year stuff.
That's what it looks like. and electricity.
And the salt. And how many, well, does anybody know how many tons of salt we owe? Because it looks a couple of meetings ago, we paid a good chunk of money on the salt as well.
That was the beginning.
Was it like, are we
Deliveries.
supposed to get 4 deliveries? Was that what Denny said?
I don't know the full amount, how much salt we're supposed to get.
Yeah, because there's three deliveries here. So I was just gonna be able to back it in here.
Do we have any information about this stuff, or?
No.
That's what I'm looking.
Do you wanna dig it up?
Still on the warrant?
Yes. Do you know,
Questions?
do you know how many tons of salt we were supposed to get?
Oh, I don't.
You know,
Well, that's what we were wondering, because like 2 warrants ago, we had like 3 deliveries of salt. And I know we had looked at doing it slightly differently if they couldn't come through. And then,
well, that was, we determined that they could come through. We went with Morton Salt because they,
Right.
let's see. if it's-
initially, they were the ones we were going to go with, and then they had some delivery issues, but that was addressed. And then they started to make their deliveries on time, or,
Right, because there was a concern whether or not they were gonna be able to take care of everyone that they had promised to. So it looks
It
like,
would be really nice if every once in a while she would give us an update just on the salt and sand, you know?
well, let's
Parse
make
it out like the detail, like you
Can we
do
make
with
a note
QuickBooks.
to, at our next meeting, we could have a sort of a total of how much salt is in and how much salt is still on
To
the,
come.
to come, and what the total tonnage for the upcoming year is, and maybe the total cost.
so I'm not seeing, in our warrant, we have 3 separate things here. But I only see, oh, wait a minute. 60, 75, 20, 35, 2, 1789, 1797. Alright, so how many does that make? That's at least 6 that I can think of. Numbers.
Unless they go around only able to ship a certain amount the first couple of times.
I don't know why, we've never had an issue like that. Like, they've come in and we've got our salt. We've got our salt pile and our sand pile, and they're mixing.
Didn't we start with a different vendor? Didn't we start with, who do we get it through? Through the DOT?
Wasn't it?
No, it wasn't through DOT. or
Well,
something?
we were going to go that route.
Yes, we were.
And then Morton Salt was cheaper, and so they opted to go for Morton Salt. But then there was some question about their delivery practices, which got addressed, and so that's why we're still with Morton Salt. It's cheaper, and so we were comfortable with Morton Salt.
68 and 60.
I think initially we were going to go with KV Cog, wasn't it?
Yeah,
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 I thought
which
you-
was the DOT salt bid or something. But that was.
but then Morton came in
Morton came
cheaper.
in cheaper, and so we're happy with Morton. It's just a matter of, let's just have a total.
Well, we so far, at least in this warrant, is 135 tons.
Yeah. Okay.
But I don't know what the
We'll
total-
get some answers on the totals coming up. Any other questions on the warrant, anybody, or?
well, this probably can't just go hanging because Warren's gonna be looking for its money.
Oh, well.
Oh, right,
I'm
no,
comfortable with them being paid. I just would
Yeah.
like to know where we stand with the
Okay.
salt, like how many more deliveries are we expecting?
So we can vote on the warrant,
Yeah.
but you need that
Yes.
other information.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
just to make
I'd
a
like
note.
Just to know where we're at. I would
I'd like to
be
know that
finished
too.
Cheryl,
with
would you make a
Shell's
note
site.
that we want that information, please? And if he could email it to us so we don't have to wait for the next meeting, that would be good. All right, any other questions on that? I have minor things, and up top, there are 2 canceled classes for Anthony. And I thought we paid once, we paid a cancellation fee for him. I know we did.
We
And
did.
he's got 2 of them here, why,
There may be additional classes, I'm
can you
guessing.
see anything in there about it? Yeah, he may have, but, you know,
He may have been signed up for additional classes, that's all I can think of.
It's another MMI.
maybe.
The $15 cancellation fee, is that the deal? Well, one was only a $10 cancellation fee. Yeah.
Last one was $10,
Yep,
15 and 10 today.
So, one was basic municipal budgeting, that's the $10 one. And, so I think we due, because it was over 30 days. So apparently, we're not paid in time, so we're being charged an additional $10.
Is that what it is?
That's what it looks like to me, so we have here. Look at it with me. So, basic municipal budgeting, we owe them $10 because it was overdue by more than 30 days. This was the original, so now they re-invoiced it on November 2nd, due on the 2nd of December. I'm wondering if we're gonna pay an additional $10. Hopefully not.
Why did they re-invoice
And
it?
there was, because it didn't get paid in October.
Side down.
Yeah, but then they re-invoice it, plus they charge a
it's,
penalty.
it's
That's what it
payback for
looks
you.
like, and this
getting
was
paid for
supervisor's
signing on the
boot
wrong
camp,
spot.
that's Melanie,
Have Melanie sign.
and this was canceled, so.
You'll discuss it
So
with her.
$15 municipal law, so 2 different, one was budgeting and one was law.
Two
But we're
different
paying a
courses.
$10 penalty for not paying it on time, which I believe I've requested 1,000 times that we actually pay this stuff on time. Because we've had no warrants between October and December.
What a novel suggestion. All right,
Okay,
any
so
other questions?
Are you adding that to our notes for the warrant?
Please pay stuff on time.
Any other questions on this?
I have 2 other notes I'd like to add.
Go ahead.
Which is, I see we're paying $438.24 for clothing for the solid waste center again,
Where is that?
on this first page, second down,
Yep,
Yeah, the embroidery?
D&D embroidery. And I just like to maybe have a total of where that stands in the budget of their clothing allowance. It seems like we have a lot of this. I don't think we've had that much turnover at the transfer station, so I don't know why we have so much clothing at the transfer station. I just wanna know.
Well, it used to be in years past that there was a set amount per person that was allowed for. This purchased 9 hooded safety sweatshirts, screen printed one coat, left chest and back, 9 long sleeve t-shirts,
Now, this could be,
and 1 bomber jacket.
yeah, this could be winter clothes. So.
The
you know,
bomber
this-
jacket,
they-
those heavy duty,
I would
heavy
think
jackets.
They
that
get
bomber
that.
jacket is.
Why only 1?
Well, they maybe don't need what the others have.
Could be, I mean, because I know they've maybe added a person up there, because, you know, Les was working up there more, now he's the sexton, I don't know.
And they did hire a new judge.
They hired that new fella who's going to sort of take Les's place up there on when the transfer station is open, so maybe that's what that's for, and I just wanna clarify it, that's all.
Now, are they being embroidered with people's names?
Yeah, I think so.
Because it seems to me that it would make more sense if we have any transfer of staff, that if we purchased a warm winter jacket, that it gets passed on, that becomes the property of the town when someone leaves the position.
Perhaps, but there's different sizes, they get dirty, I don't know exactly.
It's probably that, of all the departments, the toughest on clothing.
Yeah,
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah, you know, so I'm not sure I'd wanna wear
And they
somebody
used to
else's
have to buy their
jacket.
own.
yeah.
Yeah,
And I think I'm sure it's safety, you know, it's not something
Yeah,
you just
they'll
go down to Walmart and buy. It's a safety, color,
Well,
reflective.
it's
Yeah,
the
they'll-
building that, you know, the kind of day look color.
Yeah.
I don't know about the
So
line jacket.
let's just find out
That's the
about
same
it.
thing.
I'm fine with it, you know, being paid. I just had that question. And then the only other question I had was, there was a total of $570 in water testing.
Oh, yeah.
And I just had a question. I'm fine with it being paid. I just have a question of how often does that occur?
I think I asked that at the budget meeting, isn't it supposed to be, is it twice a year, they said?
I think so.
I believe it is.
Okay. And then do we get to see the results of the testing, just to see where we stand, or?
Well, somebody checks it out, because they mail
Yeah.
them. My guess is that they
Goes-
would
goes-
mail them.
It goes to Denny.
Goes to
Mhm,
Denny?
I would
Just-
think.
I guess I'd like to know the frequency of it and if it's good or bad.
Well, usually he'll tell us, when we've had
Yeah.
problems in the past, they tell us about it.
Well, I think sort of what, and Ernie, I can, you know, if I can reword, I think what Ernie's saying is, we'd like more information than what we get.
Well, and most of the
You know,
time when
so-
he's here, we get that.
You know,
I
I
just,
mean, it
in this particular
should be,
case.
so this is what happened, the water testing was
Yeah.
done, this is how it came out, even if it's high fives all the way around, we
Yeah.
need to know.
Well, like, you know, at least one of these is for the town office and, you know, knowing what we know now about the salt level in this general district here, you know, wanted to,
I called that one years ago before we even built here.
yeah, follow up.
But do they, well, see, my question also is exactly what do they test for? Are they testing for E. coli as well? Are they just doing
I
salt?
think it's pretty
Are they
comprehensive.
doing minerals or what?
It's usually comprehensive, because in years past, when the Center for All Seasons failed, we had to bleach the well several times
Mhm.
and then redo the testing.
But then why is it $190 for the Dalton facility, the Dalton property, and $95 for the rest?
One's for the apartment and one's for the house.
But they're on the same well, I think. Yeah,
The problem could be in the plumbing.
Well,
Yeah.
we need somebody to answer the
yeah,
question.
so that's just a question. That's all. I have no
Otherwise, we're
problem with it
just
being
sort of
paid.
bouncing the ball back and forth.
So I guess
That water testing one that was
we
one of
could
the
move
questions
forward.
I asked at the budget meeting.
we could move
We
forward.
need to,
We could call the vote on the warrant. Those are my questions going forward.
Anybody else, any other questions? Anybody object to voting on this warrant?
no.
Okay, all those in favor of the warrant? I assume it's been seconded. 5 in favor, 4 in favor, 1 absent.
Okay.
Town manager updates, well, that's not gonna happen.
Well, the update is, he's not here. That's the update.
Yeah, Denny, need to have Denny think twice before he misses a meeting. But I don't think he can help it, I think it's.
Well, he hasn't missed a lot of meetings. I made the mistake of signing on your line, so I do a
Are you
little
going to
arrow.
address tomorrow? Okay.
Are you going to address tomorrow?
Tomorrow.
What do you mean?
Our office is gonna be open, right?
No.
Yes,
They are gonna
Oh,
be open
for
tomorrow?
the,
yes.
No, we didn't vote on it. Oh, that's right, we
did
didn't
not
vote on it.
discuss it, that
Oh.
would be part of the other.
Was that gonna be a discussion topic?
Well, unless you just want to vote on it without discussing it.
Let's discuss it.
Okay. Should the offices be closed tomorrow for, in honor of the
Dr. President Bush.
President Bush? Will you sign that, please?
Yes.
I say, I make a motion it should be closed tomorrow.
I don't really have any problem with that. I don't know.
Somebody make a,
Signature motion, so we have for discussion.
okay, motion's made and seconded. What
I
discussion?
feel that the office should be open tomorrow. The only parts of the state that are closed are the executive branch, and regular state offices are open.
No, they're not.
Yes, they are. The whole state is shut down?
The executive branch, that includes the
The
state
email,
offices.
the email said
Oh,
that
really?
the state offices were
Okay,
closed.
all right.
The only thing that might be open is the legislature, but that's
That's
legislative
not a
branch,
session.
different branch.
So I would say, I hadn't heard that.
Yeah.
I had, because Denny sent out this little email about it, and he said that it was just executive offices only, and he wasn't.
All of the state workers work for the executive department.
Well,
They do.
Okay, if it's those offices, then I guess, yes, we probably should be closed.
Yes.
If you're closed down, everything else in Belgrade's closed down too. And they don't know it.
Yeah. This is pretty late notice for that.
Yeah.
That's why it's kind of
It's a conundrum.
it's a conundrum. It was confusing because I saw that the governor had said executive offices only, and then I guess it changed.
State offices.
Well, for future reference, there are 3 branches of government. Either not legislative, wasn't addressing legislative, certainly not the judicial, so that leaves everything else as executive.
Well, if that's the case, then I don't know, how do we tell everybody who works for the town that the town is closed tomorrow? Is that,
Home tree call, I guess.
yeah?
Can we send out a blast on voice, what do you call it, email? Can you do that?
What's tomorrow, Wednesday?
Well, let's see how we vote on this.
Okay,
Okay, any other discussion? The motion is to close the offices tomorrow in honor of the late George Bush. All those in favor?
I'm sorry, can I hold off on the vote for a minute? Because the Center for All Seasons, the after-school program is open. They can't, how are they gonna notify all those parents and have them make alternate arrangements between 7:10 to 9?
Schools are all open tomorrow, aren't they?
yeah.
Schools are open.
Good point. Well, maybe we ought to just let things lie. And
I have to draft a policy.
we'll have to talk to Denny about this for
So
future.
leave it, so we will be open tomorrow?
Leave it so we're open. I mean, the library I don't worry about, you just close that. The after-school session, that's different.
That's the one that's-
The parents will be counting on the kids to be taken care of down there. So,
I think this is pretty short notice, I mean, to be closing.
well, the fact is Denny should have closed it down when he got the notice from the government.
Well, it was confusing because initially,
It's not confusing if you understand
Yeah.
who we work for.
yeah, but initially it was just executive branch. It wasn't all the offices initially. And then it was changed.
But all of the offices are the executive branch, everything but the legislature.
No, I asked my son works for the state, and I said, do you have tomorrow off? And he said, no, he was working. But he's not part of he works for DOT, he's not part of the executive branch.
Yeah.
But maybe that's been changed, and maybe he is working.
All right.
I don't know.
We're not gonna do anything about it.
Okay, too
We're
short
just gonna
notice.
leave
Are
things
we
as they are.
withdrawing the motion?
Yeah, I'll withdraw the motion.
Okay.
No, it just dies.
It dies.
We had 2 votes for anyway, so it would have died. Apologies to the Bush family. Anything else, anybody? I want to get out of here while I'm still ahead.
I make the motion that we adjourn.
You have anything else, Melanie?
Well, there's a couple of things that I'd like for us to see on a future board meeting, and I don't know exactly how we go about making sure it gets on the agenda. But I feel like the transfer station recycling policy really needs to come before the select. There needs to be a discussion about it. We need to figure out how we're notifying the public, how we are notifying the haulers, how the haulers are notifying the people that they haul for, the change of policy and the reasons behind it, and what we're doing with them, what other avenues are we looking at. So I feel like we need discussion about that. And I feel like we also need some parameters about the Dalton property. The meeting that is potentially taking place on Friday to discuss a long-term rental when we have a renter in there. And we told the man that he can use his own money to renovate this property. And now we're gonna have a meeting where we entertain the possibility of taking the property away from him and giving it to a long-term rental, and I think that that's not how I operate as a person, and God help me, I hope it's not how we operate as a.
I asked Denny about that, and he said that they weren't, that they were interested only in the teen building.
Did you see the email?
Well,
Yeah, the email talks about more than team building.
they have several options. I mean, the team building, the red building, renting, buying, you know, they've got a lot of options on the table. This all has to be discussed. And clearly, where we have tenants in there, you know, have they signed a lease for a certain period of time? I mean,
Well, we told him he could renovate.
well, yeah, and so, you know, things like this would all be taken into the discussion between all the parties involved. And whatever, I'm with you on maybe the meeting shouldn't occur on Friday because Linda Bacon can't make it. However, I see this meeting as a very preliminary meeting, and maybe a couple of things will be hashed around, but no decisions are going to be made at this meeting. It's not a final meeting by any means.
I don't see this board doing anything to put that tenant out.
No,
Well,
absolutely.
and I feel like we requested that a letter be drafted. I haven't seen a copy of the letter that we had discussed giving to this gentleman, giving him some sort of concession. I also don't feel like having this meeting on Friday, I don't understand the hurry for the meeting. You know, I don't feel like if we move this off until January, that it's gonna change the discussion. And then I feel like more people are able to make the meeting.
I see it as a very ground floor level meeting in terms of, what are the options, where do we stand, what, you know, and then getting some of the pros and cons on paper. But I don't see any big decisions being made at this meeting. And aside from the fact that,
We really can't anyway, it's not an official meeting.
well, it's not an official meeting, but some of the things that need to be, when you make a list of pros and cons of this thing, you know, on that list would be the tenant that we have in the Charbel, the tenant we have in the apartment over the garage, and the other tenants in terms of where their lease stands. And then
The other thing is that cabin is used quite extensively during the summer.
the concerns of the center.
And it was donated by
Yeah.
somebody who raised the money to build it,
Yeah.
not to build it, but to renovate it.
Right.
Sure.
And it seems to me they have to be involved too.
Sure.
I certainly would feel.
I think from what I can see, this is primarily just an organizational meeting to sort of get some of the pros and cons out on the table a little bit so that we can have something to think about going forward. But I don't see anything really. It's gonna be a long process to get the recreation department's views on it, the you know, where the tenants stand. You know, ultimately, it could come down to, you know, being a referendum question for the town. I don't know, you know, where
I think
What-
that,
What's
that's
the
gonna
pressure to have the meeting on Friday?
That's my question.
I don't
Is-
understand the pressure.
I'm fine with us doing an informational session and let's try to figure this out.
Yeah.
I don't understand the push to we've gotta get this scheduled right now, and when the person who suggested that we have the meeting clearly says she can't make it
Yeah.
for these two reasons, and then the meeting is still scheduled during that time
That's
frame, I
right.
was like,
Well-
I
to
can't
me,
make
seems
it,
like,
you
and I
can't make it.
understand that there's other people's schedules to take into account. December is a busy time of year for
Sure.
everyone, and if it doesn't have to be done in December, then I would like for us not to do it in December, and but I feel like as a board that we need more information on what we're getting. I feel like if we've said this letter needs to be drafted, we need to see a copy of the letter. If we're renting the Dalton property, we have built into next year's budget potentially $10,000 in maintenance cost. Where does that leave us as far as where we're coming out balancing on the rental properties anyhow? You know, I'd like for us to have more information than what we're given. This book,
Yeah.
quite frankly, is sad. I honestly feel like we are given the minimal amount of information and being expected to make decisions on it, and there's no backup, and there's no way to get backup or get our hands on backup during the meeting. And I feel like it puts us in a precarious position, and I feel like we do a disservice to the town because we're not fully informed.
Okay. I get your point, but this particular meeting and this particular book, I think, is an anomaly. I mean, Denny's not here, Rick's not here. This is you know, sort of a bare bones meeting. We know
It was
that.
getting better the last few meetings.
Yeah.
We're getting more information.
And it will, I mean, but, you know, this meeting and this book, you know, you can't take that as, and anything that we don't have information on, the Board of Appeals thing, we tabled. The recommendation, you know, the Melanie Alexander as tax collector, we tabled. We didn't have enough information. Anything we don't have information on, we can table, get information on, and then we move forward. And that's what we do. This meeting, I know Linda Bacon can't make the meeting, but I don't know that she hasn't talked to Lily or her mother, to Lily's
Valencia's
mother.
out, Valencia's moved. She doesn't.
Oh, has she moved already? Whatever.
Yep.
But Lily, I mean,
She's
chances
not on
are she's
the
talked to
committee.
Lily. She may have given Lily.
Sounded like she was, when she moved, she was over and out. She
Yeah.
was like, see on the
That
flip
was,
side.
yeah,
But she still has, you know, somewhat of a connection to it, you know, just maybe even on a volunteer basis because Lily's there. But even so, who knows, you know, Linda may have discussed with Lily their mutual concerns about the property, and maybe she's gonna come to the meeting, even though Linda can't. I don't know
I
that,
know,
but,
but the thing is, we don't know.
well, you know, so it could be this is a very preliminary meeting, and I think Denny just wants to get something started so that we have the ball rolling towards getting the information we need to make some sort of decision.
Denny wasn't gonna have a meeting. This discussion was not gonna go to a meeting. Linda Bacon is the one who said, there needs to be a meeting to discuss this.
Okay,
It was not going to
Okay.
be open for anybody else. So
Yeah.
I feel like the person who was
Mhm.
the director for the Board of Parks and Recreation, the board chair, requested a meeting, and I think that she needs to be part of the meeting. She made the request.
Mhm.
I absolutely
Other than
agree with
that,
you.
I agree.
Other than that, I don't
Yeah.
feel like this select board would even know that this proposal, that it's even being proposed.
well, it's been emailed to us. We know it's being proposed, but,
I didn't see an email until Linda sent the email, so this conversation had been going on.
well,
and
Denny
then-
sent the email out prior to
there was
Linda's
an email.
response. Linda responded to that email. So, you know, that
I was thinking that Linda
There's an
had
email.
sent
I
it
think
out
there's an
and
email from-
attached the email.
There was an email from somebody from the yacht club.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
yacht club
Made
sent
it
an email to Denny. Denny forwarded that email to everybody.
Shane was there,
Yeah.
there were like 7 of them.
Linda responded to that email with her concerns, and then the meeting setup was a completely different email. But, you know, I don't see this as there's gonna be other meetings for sure. I think this is just a introductory meeting to get some of the thoughts
well,
about
so
it
therefore
on the
it's
table.
not really,
It
I
could
wanna
be-
say it's not really important.
Well,
Because I think
it's
that,
not the most important, I know that.
I agree with Melanie.
Yeah.
First of all, I don't see, what's the big rush?
Mhm.
And secondly, Linda Bacon's not gonna be there.
Mhm.
And she chairs the
Mhm.
rec committee. And thirdly, I think that there's a potential for people to walk away from a preliminary or an introductory meeting with ideas that may or may not be true. You know what I mean?
Well, it's sort of a fact-finding meeting, if you will. I don't know. I mean,
Okay.
I don't know. If they don't have it, it's not gonna
Well,
bother
I'm
me
ticked
any.
because I can't go either.
I'm gonna go, but I don't, you know, I don't think, maybe it's not necessary that the whole select board is there, because it's not until it comes to the select board. But, you know, I'm available to go, and perhaps as a representative of this board, I don't know, but I'll lay out some of these concerns you have, and they're my concerns too. I mean, but I see it as just what are they offering? What are our obligations to these tenants? And the future obligations we have for maintenance or what have you, and what are how does this impact the rec committee and the rec board and their concerns? The whole thing could be moot. I mean, I don't know, but let's just entertain it, I guess, because it does have some value, I guess, somewhere down the line, because there are certain people who on a long-term basis, object to the town owning that property and being landlords of it, just because that's not really the business we're in. So,
But we also don't really know how we're renting it and what the agreement is.
that's right. These are all questions to be
With
answered.
the tenant, because we haven't seen a letter.
And that's, and not just that, I mean, I really just feel like we're snowed a little bit, like, we have someone who's renting the property for us. I've not ever seen a rental agreement.
Well, that's done through the rental agent.
Right, but
for the
I feel like as the Board of Select people, I think if there's a contract that the town has entered into with anyone,
We need to
that
see it.
we, at the very minimum, see a copy of that,
Yes.
so that we,
Let's make a request that we get a copy of it. I mean, I'm sure there's a copy of it on file, because it is a town,
Contract.
agreement.
yeah, it just used to be that we got more information than we get now. And I feel like if we don't make specific requests, and even if we do make specific requests, we aren't necessarily getting information. And I feel like it's very hard to be informed when we don't have the information.
Yeah, so ask for the information.
I'm like, I don't know.
Let's ask for the information.
Okay,
Get the
so
Why
information.
don't we just ask Denny to postpone it until Linda Bacon can be available? That's the only objection. Linda's not here, is that correct?
Yeah,
Is that correct?
Yes, that's a major.
Postpone it until Linda Bacon can be available. You'll have to do it tomorrow to get hold of the people from the yacht club who probably come in from Portland.
I mean, there may be some reason why he's proceeding with it on Friday that we don't know about. I don't
The only
know.
thing I can think of is he wants to get it on the warrant. It will, I think it will have to go to the town. You can't just,
But there's a lot of groundwork to be
Oh,
done
yeah.
between.
Oh, my
I realize
Lord,
that,
to
but that's
get
the
out
only,
of
that's
the
the
warrant?
only reason I can think of for the rush, is that he wants to get it on the warrant for the town meeting.
well, and I
Whether
wonder
that's
if he
advisable
wants
or
to
not,
get
I
it
don't know.
done before he's,
Yeah,
doing stuff for the.
and it may not, maybe some other reason, I don't know. But, or it may be, to be honest, it may be that he figures this isn't going anywhere and let's just get it done with.
Maybe, I mean, and who knows? I mean, there's lots of different options. If the yacht club wants to buy the whole property and let the rec department use it in the summers at no charge, I don't know. There's all these different things that could transpire. I don't know, that could benefit the town, and it just has to be hashed out. But it has to start somewhere, and that's whether it starts on Friday or it starts next month, it doesn't matter to me, but there must be a reason why we're getting this underway, and probably it has to do with the yacht club, because maybe they want to make some plans before their next yachting season, I'm guessing.
Well, they are looking for a permanent home,
Sure.
and this is something that was suggested and is a possibility, and they want to see where it goes.
Who suggested it?
Huh?
You're part of the yacht club, aren't you?
I am. I wouldn't be voting on this anyway, but I don't remember which one of the members suggested it, but probably might have been Ben Ford, or it might have been Greenan. I don't know. I don't remember.
Might have been green, yeah, I think
In fact, I think it might have been Greenan.
Um,
Keeping in
As
mind,
to if we're done with that topic, as to your recycling thing, I was talking to Jack before the meeting. We're having our next transfer station recycling committee meeting on the 10th, before our next meeting here. And perhaps we'll have some more information about that, because that's a big concern that we're tackling.
Yeah, because our next select board meeting isn't until the 18th, and if that gave us something, I think Jack and I had spoken, and I was talking to somebody else at the transfer station about how probably 10 or 15 years ago now, I imagine myself, we had done a big board at the town meeting that was very clear with, this is recyclable, this is not. Concrete, things that people could see. Like the lady that I was talking to at the transfer station said, this little flyer's up here.
Yeah.
Nobody got anything, so I took a picture of it with my phone so that I would have an idea of how I'm supposed to be sorting my stuff now.
Keep in mind that the recycling picture changes almost constantly, okay? And unfortunately, the markets are so volatile.
Oh, I do understand that. Did anybody, just an additional note, did anybody notice in the main townsman deal, the requirements, I think it's right here, if this is the current one, the requirements for recycling, the state of Maine is 50% if you have a transfer facility, or,
Yeah, I don't know that. I haven't read that. But so like one of the things we did earlier this year on the recycling committee was we published, we updated our sort of recycling or our transfer station handbook, which is just this pamphlet that lists all these different things. And so that was updated. And then since that's been updated, the office paper, certain other things have changed even since then. The plastics, there's some plastics we don't take now that we did take down. And who knows, next year if things change, we may take them again, and that'll be a change again. But so we have to develop a more agile way of adapting to these changes as they occur and getting that information out. And it could well be that certainly one idea that I've had is when it comes to the plastics, for instance, or the paper or whatever, I mean, we just maybe have to have a board with certain types of plastics stapled to the board that we take and we don't take now. Certain kinds of papers that we take that we don't take, and so on and so forth. It's really, but we also, you know, we have to do that. We're going to talk about this coming up at our next meeting.
What's going to happen if you don't figure it out pretty soon, we're going to take it over. I just feel that because we got a lot of people in town who are very annoyed with this. They go down there. My wife told me she went down there and she had an item that they said, "Oh, we can't take that," and they changed the board right then and there. You can't do that. If the item is not to be collected, you need to tell people, and it has to be a certain amount of time between that decision and when it's implemented. That's the big problem now, as I see it.
Yeah.
It's difficult, I can understand, because things are changing.
Yeah.
But we're going to have to do something to live with it. You know what you're saying is right.
Yeah. It is confusing, and we try to make it clearer, but that doesn't mean it's not going to be confusing again, you know, down the line or what have
and
you.
maybe what we need to do is, you know, corrugated cardboard. You know, now we're putting a lot of different types of mixed paper in it. So there's a bottleneck at the recycling now because people are trying to sort as they're standing there, and I'm one of them.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Because I'm like, can this go? Okay, hang on, this needs to go over here now.
Oh, yeah.
But this, oh, no, we're not taking that now. We were taking it a couple weeks ago, like, oh, not
What you're going to
anymore.
have is everybody just going to the dump, to the hopper. You know,
It'll
which is-
be, yeah, I mean, sometimes it is that way. I mean, when I have
If you don't keep it simple from a public point of view, public is gonna say, to heck with the recycling,
Yeah,
period.
it's going to go to the
Yep.
hopper.
We'll go to the hopper. I think if you're gonna try to follow these rapid changes, you're gonna have to do that within the transfer station. You're gonna have to accept all the stuff according to a simple process from the public point of view, and then do the sorting internally. Otherwise, it's gonna fail.
You know, and that, I've heard that stated, I mean, like, there's a single sort method that some people have said, well, why don't we have single sort? Why don't I just bring all my trash?
That's what caused the problem to begin with.
And, you know, if that may be something we'll have to consider. I mean, in which case we'd have to sort of revamp where the recycling area is and where the hopper is, because so much stuff that's gonna come into, if it all comes into one area and we wind up sorting it ourselves, a lot of it's gonna go in the hopper, and the hopper's down back right now, which creates you know, these are logistical issues that potentially could be addressed, but these are all things that need to be discussed by the committee.
You will be discussing it at your committee.
And so we'll have more information about that, but it's very clear that, you know, you're not the first person. Many people have bent my ear about how confusing it is, and it needs to be less confusing, simpler, I don't know. I mean, some towns have found it to be too confusing to even come up with a solution that works, that fits everybody, and they've done away with recycling. And
But I don't know that they can. Hang on just a minute, before we adjourn, let me just see, my May townsman is at the house, Ricky doesn't have a current one. Let me just see if one of us still has it in there, because it was just
well, whatever it is, we'll get to the bottom of it.
Well, and we're not gonna solve it here tonight.
No, and we
So,
really
This is committee work.
It is, so that's why I'm saying we're gonna be tackling this, because it's come up many
It'll come
times.
back to us if necessary, if it's not fixed.
But we also have to be aware that
You
we have one
Jack
member
is
on the
trying to
committee
ask a question.
Oh, I'm sorry, Jack.
who wants to
Go ahead,
recycle everything,
Jack.
no matter what, but there's no market for
Ernie.
anything, so.
Jack.
I'm glad you're having this discussion, because it's very important. I think the town is in a good position, and it's in a relatively better position as this develops. There are two branches to it. One is to get the operation right, in phase with what the market demands. Number two is to educate the town as to how to bring stuff in and what not to bring. Because if you start bringing everything in and let the transfer station, make the transfer station sort it out, now your handling costs go way up.
Oh, yeah.
And you have to balance that off, but it can be done.
Mhm.
And you need to take the grades that will be accepted in the market and you can sell, and know what your costs are.
Mhm.
Now, if costs are very close, you're probably just gonna have to make a decision one way or the other. If
Yeah.
costs are widespread,
Yeah.
it doesn't make any difference until you can make a change in your operational costs. Can you lay somebody off to save that money? If you can't, it doesn't make any difference.
Yeah, yeah.
Again,
You
that's
have to
committee
know
stuff.
that, you have to know the numbers.
But there is gonna be a learning curve, and
Of course.
because like we did accept all this different plastic, and everybody was comfortable with that for quite a while. And then it changed. And some of that change was in the handbook that we sent out, was on the Facebook page. And, you know, if you're not, as a user of the transfer station, if you're not up to date on that stuff, it's not necessarily Kenny's job or the sorter's job in the recycling area to specifically educate everybody of these changes, because they need to, there's gonna be a learning curve. It's gonna take a couple weeks for people, even myself, for me to understand what plastics we take, what plastics we don't take, you know, what to throw away, what to save, you know, and it's a change. And so change is hard for a lot of people, and it's gonna take some time. And
I don't know that it's just the change, like I had at the governance meeting the other night, one of the ladies was saying, like the plastic bottles for the water. She said, these crinkle, so am I right, the crinkle ones we can't take? I said, no, we can take those because they have a bottleneck. So she was like, this is the part that's driving me bananas. She said,
yeah.
I can't figure out what we can take and what we can't take, and she's like, and I'm really good at recycling. I was like, I know, me too.
Yeah.
But this is what it says under legal notes in this. Are municipalities legally required to participate in solid waste recycling? Answer, yes, they are. Although recycling has become much more expensive recently due to a steep decline in the market for recycled materials, municipalities still must demonstrate reasonable progress toward the state recycling goal as determined by Maine DEP. See, blah, blah, blah. The current state recycling goal is to recycle or compost by January 1, 2021, 50% of the municipal solid waste tonnage. To this end, municipalities must make an annual report with the DEP on their solid waste management and recycling practices. The report must indicate how much of each type of solid waste is generated and how that solid waste is managed. The DEP is required to assist municipal reporting by developing a waste stream assessment model.
we may very well be recycling 50% of our, I'm not sure exactly, I have to get those.
Well, I've
Is that-
been out of it for a long time,
Yeah.
but we used to have a tonnage report.
Yeah, we do, we still do.
Report total tonnage,
Yeah.
what's recycled by the grades that are recycled.
Yeah, we still do.
And you can look at the bottom line and see what percent.
We do. I mean, because when you think about recycling in general, it's the wood, it's the brush, it's the glass, it's the paper, it's oil, it's, you know, and so like when you look across the board and all these different things that we have some sort of recycling in place for, I'm almost positive that we are, and we have been over 50% for some time. So I think we do accomplish that already. Whether the market's changing is gonna affect that, and obviously it will to some degree. That's up to, we have to find out about that, but I mean, there's been certain things that have changed in that, like we used to recycle asphalt shingles. The market went away for that. Now that's not recycled, that's sent to the landfill. So.
Okay, we're not gonna get it settled tonight.
Yeah, so that's a committee issue, we're gonna work on that. We're
I
well
suggest
aware.
that anybody's interested, come to the committee meeting.
Yes,
Can you make it
Well, and then
7
the
o'clock?
committees used to come to the select board and let us know what was going on, how many tons have been recycled, what the particular types were.
okay, well, why don't I make that suggestion, that we make sure we have all that information in place? And if not, at the very next select board meeting, at a soon select board meeting, we'll bring all that information to you.
And what time is the meeting?
7
7
o'clock on Monday the 10th.
So that would be 7 o'clock on Monday, and then we have a meeting here on Tuesday, and then we have a meeting here on Wednesday.
Yeah. So,
Well, we have the meeting on Wednesday if we can't
If-
resolve everything on Tuesday. That's a spillover meeting.
Bill,
So, well, if you can't make it, but it's an opportunity to get some information anyway. All right, anything else? Anybody else want to bring anything else up?
I just have a question,
No,
which is the
to
main
the-
reason that I'm here. Is there going to be something done either at the town meeting or in March or by referendum vote on a petition that I understand was proposed or was brought before the board by Ernie Rice about the library hours?
We have to vote to accept that petition. We haven't done that yet.
Okay, so at this point, it's old business. So
guess,
if I'm looking at the agenda on my computer, and it would be listed under old business if it's going to be
If it's
discussed.
gonna be discussed, yeah.
Okay,
well, at the last meeting, it was proposed, but the wording was vague and
Had to rework the wording on it.
and it was tabled to be reworded.
Denny's trying to address that.
He's trying to
They'll
address
come
it.
back when that's taken care of, and we'll vote on it, whether to
He's
accept it
working
or not.
on because the wording of the article that was in the petition that Ernie went out and got signatures on was very vague or unclear, and that was clear to me when we were talking about it, and so I suggested that we table it to get it, because it was unclear. So Denny's working on that. We're trying to flesh that out in a clear way, and it could well be that because we're voting in the town at the town meeting on the library budget, it could be that having this article on at that voting at on that warrant, Denny told me the other day that may not work because it's going to be too confusing. So potentially it could be June before we vote on Ernie Rice's amendment. But whether that flies or not, I have no idea. It's still in the planning stages.
okay, thank you.
Anything else?
Can I just ask a legal question with that? If folks have signed a petition and the wording of the article that they signed the petition on is not reflected with the final article, are those petition signatures then moot? Because then you can't carry signatures over to a different petition question.
That's been discussed. It's a little vague, but potentially there's some thought about intent, which, and it's vague to me still, so.
One of the things that the petition mentioned, a particular time to be voted on, be at the, I think it's at the meeting in November, which it was submitted too late to get on that warrant at election day. So that was a question right there. Does that automatically nullify it? That was something we would have to address. Do we want to
I think
accept?
so.
I would think so too.
Well,
I
then
think so
that's the way you
too.
should
So, I mean,
vote.
that's-
This is a legal process that we're
Well,
doing.
then that's the way you should vote. We're not voting on it tonight, though. But that's the way you should vote. If you feel that way, that's the way you should vote. But that's a question that needs to be addressed. At this point, I'm not sure, how the vote would come down, but nevertheless, that's still a question.
So that is going out to legal counsel, that question is going out.
I don't know what Denny's doing with it.
Yeah, we did get some legal
We
counsel
did
on
have
it.
some legal information on it, but
I don't-
MMA, I think.
Well, 'cause that was gonna be my tail end of that, is irregardless of how the board feels about it, if it's illegal for us to move something forward, if it's not correct, then
Well,
it
if
should be
it's
done before it
illegal,
gets-
if, we have the right to reject petitions if the wording is confusing or if it's not legal. If there's something in it that's illegal, then we have a right to reject. In fact, we have an obligation to reject it. One of the towns down south had a request before marijuana was voted in, had a request to bring marijuana into the town, and the select board just rejected it. They said it's illegal. We're not gonna even vote on it. So, I mean, that's the kind of thing we can do. We can just say this is illegal, or we can say, no, it's not illegal enough. We have the right to say, either way, really, but it's what the board wants to do, so. But you're right, we need to look at that.
Well, because it would seem like the petition process needs to be the same for everyone, then it needs to be the same for everyone. And if we requested that wording be specific and that certain things need to be in a petition because that's legally what we have to do, then it could be challenged if there's ever any other ones that we don't put forward, but we allow this one to go forward, but doesn't have the T's crossed and the I's dotted.
Just remember all those arguments when we talk about it.
Yes.
You're absolutely right, they have to be considered. And I don't know how the board will vote. I mean, it'd be impertinent of me to say they're gonna vote this way or that way. But,
I'm pretty sure that this won't go forward if all the Ts aren't crossed and the Is are dotted. If I have anything to say about it, I know that, and if I had my way, I think there's enough votes on this board to push this off until he would be, he has the right to keep bringing it up. And
Based on what?
it's the law.
on the law that
That you can petition for anything.
Yep.
One of the issues that I see as a possibility, but it's just me, and I need to research it a little bit more, but the idea that one can, if they're not happy with a particular vote, that they can just petition to have the vote rescinded.
Well, look at ranked choice voting.
well, it's not.
I get it, but
but
ranked choice voting is the law,
It is though, right?
and so
then-
that's what we're
Now
doing.
it's being challenged and not.
But the petition that he
Yeah,
puts
but it's being
forward,
challenged in a court of law, not in a select board.
Yeah,
keep
but
in
this,
mind, the petition that he's putting forward isn't to rescind the last vote, it's to re-vote on a new article, which, recasts it in a different wording.
anybody can petition anytime to have any warrant put on the town meeting, any article put on a town meeting warrant. It's not usually done, but it can be done. That's what all of these public service, not public, the things like the one we're on tonight. The fireworks and the hospice. Did you have something, Ann?
Well, I was just thinking that if I signed a petition in the summer, that was supposed to be, from the signing of it, it would be coming up in the fall, and it didn't come up in the fall, I might totally change my mind about something like that.
That was,
I would not be happy.
that was my point,
Yeah.
because he was here last meeting and we were discussing this.
The other side of that argument is the fact that you sign that, I'll sign a lot of petitions because I just feel that they ought to get before the public, before the voters. I did not sign that one, however. But you're only voting to allow it to be heard. That's really all you're doing. It's like, in a sense, it's like putting a motion on the table and then you have the discussion. That, in a sense, is what's going to happen now. You have a vote, not a discussion. But that's all that you're signing that petition does.
But I made that point
Yeah.
to him, because he said, because that wording was in the petition. And I said, well, that's unclear. He said, well, you understand the intent, and I'm sure the people that signed it, they understood the intent. And I said, we can't discern the intent.
Yeah, and can you automatically say, well, when Lois signed this is what she had in mind?
Yeah, I mean,
You can't make
Yeah,
that,
you
you
can't
can't
do
do that.
so, it will just, it certainly, is sort of a tedious part of town politics. You know, somebody who disagrees with the fact that we have a full-time rescue person on staff, Travis, you know, somebody could come up with a petition that says that should be part-time, or that shouldn't be non-existent, we should revote that. You know, everyone in town largely would say that's a great investment, that's why we have that. But, you know, there are some people that say, well, I've never used the rescue's never saved me, and why am I spending money on that? And so, you know, potentially that could be
We had people say that I don't use the library, why should I spend money on it?
well, yeah, that's the same argument. So,
And
I
right from the
mean,
get-go, that.
you know,
What's that?
if there were,
Go to Oakland or Augusta.
but if there were 170 people that you could get to sign a petition saying we don't want a full-time rescue person on staff anymore, potentially, if it was worded correctly and it was clear, that would be on the warrant. I don't agree with it, but yet it's part of the way things are done.
So essentially, we're open to if people don't pay attention to what they're signing, and if they are ambivalent about it and just want to get it before the people, you know, we'd be having these kinds of things come all the time, because there are a couple of people that.
It could.
In democracy messy.
Well, it is, and I just think that it's like,
Small town
if this had won by
Sounds
100
big town.
votes, I don't think we'd be having this conversation.
Useless.
But because it was a close
That's
vote,
true.
and there was, you know, some other issues that came up, all of a sudden, you know, the argument that I was talking to Jack about this before the meeting, and the argument that came up was in the dialogue right now with Bruce Poliquin and Jared Golden. One of the items that Bruce Poliquin is proposing is we have a whole new election. And there's some talk that there's no legal standing for that, because that would disenfranchise all the voters that voted for Jared Golden and the other two candidates. And so as I listen to that, I'm thinking to myself, well, gee, you know, why should we have another election for this article? Because doesn't that disenfranchise the people that voted for it? Because now, you know, they've got to come out and vote again, and it just, but it's a different thing, because
Let's move right along.
moving right along.
Thank you for addressing that,
Yeah,
It's all right.
and I will pay attention to the old business.
well, it could be, I guess it'll be old business, I guess, yeah.
You'll know by the screaming which way we voted.
Yeah.
That's right. I expect to be insulted.
Make a
All right.
motion, we adjourn.
Anything else from
I
anybody?
second that motion.
I didn't ask for motion yet.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Do you have to ask?
It's my meeting. Motion to adjourn. Yeah, motion to adjourn.
Yes.
I make motion to adjourn.
Seconded. All those in favor? Opposed?
Thank you all for
Officially
coming.
adjourned. Thank you.